the Jared Time Machine segment. That's pretty radical, dude.
Jared, we've got to go back to the future and play Buck Bumble. Doc, that game sucks.
Wait, is that my mom over there?
Is that my mom playing Buck Bumble?
Hello, and welcome to Grasstouchers, the show where the three of us guys talk about how much we enjoy video games, despite how little time we have for them. I am Jake.
I am Jared.
And I'm Greg.
Oh, hear that audio quality today. How we doing, boys? What have we been playing?
Oh, man. What have I not been playing? You know what I mean, pal? No,
I tell you, you are one of the least Grasstouchers I've ever met. I gotta say.
Well, I don't know about that. I think I've done a good job at squeezing in games in spaces where they don't belong sometimes. But
no,
you know what? I haven't gotten to play as much Counter-Strike as I wanted to, which means I've played pretty much none. I played none Counter-Strike, which is what you'd imagine. It's
a good way to go through life. It's a bad way to get good at Counter-Strike.
A bad way to get good at Counter-Strike, but a good way to pay homage to Whoopi Goldberg from Sister Act. It's none Counter-Strike. N-U-N Counter-Strike.
Oh, dude, that was a journey. That took me a second. I was like, what?
Which they made a sequel for that movie. They made Sister Act 2 Back in the Saddle?
You got me, dude. I don't know.
Back in the Habit, I think, is what it was. I've been playing that game on my phone mostly because I was remote for Thanksgiving this year.
Mm-hmm.
Out of town, not far, not out of state, but out of town with my now fiance and her family.
Oh, yes.
And
we love to hear it.
Yeah, it was a good time. But her dad's not a gamer. He's a worker. How do I say this? If we're Grasstouchers, he's what's grass. You know what I mean? Because he's
not even time to do that, huh?
Right. So, Marvel Contest of Champions on my phone and some mobile action on my handhelds mostly this week, fellas. Greg?
Nice, man. How about you, Deg?
Not a ton this week because of Thanksgiving and all the things, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. Did play a little bit of... I bought Super Mario Brothers Wonder for my darling wife, which is the newest 2D, side-scrolling Mario game, mainline Mario game on the Switch. And it's fun. It's like really fun.
That has some kind of multiplayer, doesn't it? Some kind of couch co-op thing?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't gotten to that yet. We've been playing the single player version. Yeah, I think you can, but
okay, cool.
She'll play and then I'll play. But it's cool. It's very creative as far as a side-scrolling Mario game goes, and you can kind of manipulate the map itself, like the actual game level, like the hook of it. If those of you out there that aren't familiar, is that you pick up these like wonder seeds in the game, or there's an object you touch, and then like the landscape changes, like the level gets all trippy and acid trip kind of. It's cool.
Yeah, it's very Grateful Dead, Bonnaroo, something or other, isn't it? It gets really wild.
Jerry Garcia Mario game.
Yeah, the Ben and Jerry's ice cream flavor, Cherry Garcia. But no, it's that's pretty cool. And then because my wife and I got to spend a lot of time together over the break, we of course played a lot of Switch stuff. We played a lot of Mario Party and Mario Golf and those things. I haven't done a lot of single player gaming, but that's okay every now and then.
Yeah. Nice, dude. I have been absolutely chomping at the bit every day as soon as I come home from work to boot up Steam Deck. This thing, you guys, I know we already talked about it a little bit in the last episode, but now that I've actually played it for a little while, I could not be happier with it. It's like, I know that $550 is not nothing. I'm not here to say anything otherwise, right? But dang, what a deal. Like, I can't believe it. I'm looking at my Steam library, over 100 games, and I think it was like 26 of them are like great on deck. And there's ones on there that I didn't anticipate. Horizon Zero Dawn, Atomic Heart, which I think that'll be my next single-player romp, because I wouldn't say I bounced off of it on PC, but it was just kind of a lot, and there was other stuff I was playing, and so I started to play it, loved it, but like migrated elsewhere, and I didn't revisit it. So anyway, there's a bunch of great games on there. The biggest of which is Mass Effect, the Mass Effect trilogy, which I think I mentioned the other week, was like, dude, this is the way that I would want to play Mass Effect from now on. I got a controller in my hands with this beautiful screen, and I kid you not, you guys, 90 frames per second, Mass Effect 1 in my hands, remastered, on one chart. I did some very light battery sort of testing, which I'll get to later, but oh my gosh, loving how it's running. I played Mass Effect and Roller Drome, which is a fantastic arcadey, just like shooter thing. It's like Tony Hawk Pro Skater meets not a roguelike, but like a time-based like shoot 'em up game. Yep.
Cool.
And Into the Breach, which is a fantastic game from the makers of FTL. That's another one that's like, you could play that on mouse and keyboard, and it's just a one-hand kick back in your chair, like kind of like Advance Wars.
Is that where you help give birth to babies who are coming out the wrong way? I played that game.
It's just
Into the Breach.
Thank goodness it's not that.
Wow.
But
Like,
will I edit it out? Who knows? We'll find out later.
Well, you're helping them get out of there, man. God bless you.
I think that should be the title of some DLC for Surgeon Simulator for sure. Into the breach.
Out of the
breach. Yeah.
God.
Dang.
So yeah, Into the Breach has been very cool as a kind of like you were saying with Advance Wars.
Nice.
It's a run based, like, let me knock this level out in 10 minutes. So yeah, and then I played a little bit of Siege this morning before work started, and I was like, this is not it. I'm just trying to keep the FPS skills, readily available for whenever we try to jump onto Counter-Strike or Rainbow Six or anything else. And I'm glad to stay current. I go run like an offline like trainer each time I get on, and it always goes well because I know that game so well. But then I'll play like one or two matches, quick match, and like I'll win or whatever, but God,
kind of
empty
on
that game.
Yeah,
just not cool by yourself, dude. This is not good.
Gotta stay sharp though,
That's right.
Gotta stay sharp.
In these streets, homie. Orale Raiders, homie.
Oh. Derek Carr. Oh my God, bro. What are you doing? Learn how to throw a football, bro.
It's like we both lived in Tucson at one time. Hey, Greg, you mentioned Thanksgiving. Tell me about that. What'd y'all get up to over there?
Well, it was, pretty relaxing. I did a lot of nothing over Thanksgiving, but
Nice.
I like it.
We had Thanksgiving lunch/dinner with my wife's family, which was cool. But the highlight of Thanksgiving break was our 1-year wedding anniversary, which was great. And
yeah, dude.
I asked my wife what she wanted to do, because my wife does not like to be surprised. She does not like really in any circumstance to be surprised. So even when I proposed, it was like she got super anxious, right? So
right.
So I asked her what she wanted to do, and she was like, well, I really want to go to Panther City Barbecue, which don't dox me. The only thing you'll learn is I live in Fort Worth on this podcast.
Right.
But there's a barbecue joint here in Fort Worth called Panther City Barbecue, and it is according to like Texas Monthly Magazine, is in the top 10 barbecue restaurants in the state of Texas.
I gotta say, just to corroborate what you're saying, last time I visited you guys, only time I visited you guys so far, we went, and I regret nothing. It was incredible. And for reference, I'm gonna send Jared pictures of the meal that we ate right now. So please continue. I'm just here to vouch for the fact it is so good.
Yeah. So kind of the hook with that place is it's barbecue, but pretty much everything's got some kick to it, some spice to it. It's the two guys, and I'm probably missing some details, but the two guys that own the place, basically they cook their family's recipes, and I believe they're of Hispanic descent, and so there's definitely some Southern Texas, Mexican border flavor influences, which is really cool.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of some heat on pretty much everything, and the flavor profile of everything is it's unbelievable. I remember when Jake and I went, he just oohed and awed and could not believe how great everything tasted. And so in any case, my wife said, I really want to go to Panther City. Well, we happened to invite my wife's parents to meet us there. And long story short, we ended up, Panther City, you're supposed to, like any great barbecue joint in Texas, especially one that's rated in the top 10, you have to get there very early, right? At least an hour if you want to eat. And for some reason, I don't know if it was because it was right after Thanksgiving, but we were the first people in line. And so we get there and we wait in line. Well, we started the line and we sit there for about 10 minutes. And I guess the owner or maybe the manager came out and was like, hey, do you guys want to come inside and drink beer instead of standing outside, and waiting? And so anyways, like me and my wife and her parents, the four of us got to go in the restaurant totally by ourselves and sit at a table with no one else in the restaurant. And we drank.
Greg was like, boy, do I!
You phrased that almost like I thought for a second that he was gonna be like, "Hey, do you guys want to come inside and drink on the house?" And he doesn't work there. He just leads you out the back door.
Yeah, we got had. No, but they. So we get in there and they take our drink orders, and I'm just thinking man, there's actually nobody else in here, And so the four of us just sat there for half an hour. While the restaurant workers were just prepping to open the restaurant, and we were drinking beer, and it was super fun. And we were the first in line to get food, and they bring out all the food, and it's not a cheap place, and it's one of those places we go to once a year, maybe twice a year. So when you go, you know what you're in for financially, and it's worth every cent. Anyways, kind of the cherry on top was, I saw the final bill, and was getting ready to pay, and my wife's mom looked at me and was like, "We got it." And footed the whole bill for our anniversary, meal, which was just really it was awesome. We could have spent a bunch of money going to
you guys. I'll never forget when you told me after you had proposed and all the planning started in earnest, and you had picked a venue and all that stuff, and you're like, "This venue is so sick, check it out." I was like, "Oh, you're right, this is great." And you were like, "We are gonna have to do it on Thanksgiving weekend." And I was like, "You what?" But in retrospect, it's really sick because Thanksgiving gets to be double special for you guys, just for forever now. And what a sweet kind of coincidence, right? You get to go out for a nice meal on Thanksgiving weekend and celebrate two things, or three things if you want to count, Casey being pregnant and everything. So. What a win. That's awesome. I loved it. Jared, did you see the picture I sent, dude?
I did. That looks really nice. And I just had dinner too.
So
I
good.
could eat that all right.
I know, right? You could show me this picture. Like, Greg and I have talked about, like, what if one day we were neighbors in Texas and how scary, good, and dangerous that would be.
Sure, yeah.
You could text me that picture if I lived within, I'm going to say 2 hours of Panther City Barbecue. You could text me that anytime. I'd be like, let's go.
It's like the bat signal.
Yeah, it is. Yes. Like, I'm going. I'll see you there. Yeah.
Dang.
It's super good. I would say one of the things that makes it absolutely kind of Southern Tex-Mex, that first picture where you can see Andrada and Casey in the frame. I don't like anybody's potato salad, so forget that. Like, I don't like my grandma's potato salad. I don't like my mom's potato salad. I just don't like potato salad. But one of the dishes there back left by the toast is elote brisket, like in a bowl. And it's, if you like elote even a little bit, it's like literally just elote sort of, you know, corn off the cob in there with a bunch of brisket and like jalapenos and a reasonable amount of cilantro that I did not pick off. Oh my God, a little wedge of lime, like,
Nice.
Dude, killer.
Dang.
Killer. And the
Sounds
beans,
more like
oh,
Sex-Mex
man,
to me, man.
Oh,
Hello.
dude, you ain't
That's what
wrong.
I like.
Yeah,
That's what
you
I
ain't
like
wrong.
right there, folks.
I'm I'm grateful to Greg sharing that story just so I can have a fond, you know, afterglow.
Yeah, you're
from
drooling over there right now, dude. This must
I'm
have been
sorry.
some real barbecue.
It's so good. Anyway. Yeah, dude. Well, boys, I tell you what, this Steam Deck, though, I want to share a little bit more about how it's been going because I kid you not, my buddy Dave at work can vouch for this, man. I would talk to him at work. We're just like drinking coffee for a sec, shooting the shit, and he's like, "So, what's up?" And I'm like, "I just want to get home and play my Steam Deck, bro." I'm like, itching, you know. It's like super good. I've been playing Mass Effect, the trilogy. Right there it is. 90 frames per second. Did some battery testing, and I played for 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 35 minutes. And then it was like, hey, man, you only have 5% battery left, so you should probably wrap it up. You know, it's like, all right, Mom. But, like, I just, that's as good as my computer runs it. Are you kidding me? You know, so freaking good. Not to mention just how great that game is. I could go on about that. I've played Mass Effect, Roller Drome, Into the Breach. The ergonomics have been amazing. I can sit, like, back in my chair and be comfortable and sort of sit it, like, in my lap. I can sit here, like, with it on my desk. I can sit on the couch. I can sit anywhere. And I know that sounds, like, redundant, but we talked about this last time. Ergonomics matter once you're, like, not a child. And your hands, you know, sort of cramp up if something isn't, like, situated correctly. And the one thing I've had to get used to ergonomically is the D-pad. The fact that it is to the left of your left thumbstick has thrown me off just momentarily, because when I go, so for example, in Mass Effect, I go to like issue a command to a squad mate, which is on D-pad. I'm used to the Xbox where the D-pad is below the thumbstick. I was actually like reflexively, because I played Mass Effect using an Xbox controller for so long, I was reflexively like touching the OLED like screen. I was like, oh shoot, that's not where the D-pad is. Let me get those fingerprints off of there. So other than that, and that's just a product of my environment, you know, being raised on Xbox. Oh my gosh, couldn't feel better. I even programmed a couple of the back, like, you know, middle finger, ring finger kind of buttons, because I found that they make a great replacement for the bumper, right? If you want to be able to work the main trigger, but also some other bumper thing, you can do both here instead of doing two fingers up here. I've never liked having two fingers up there, but anyway, the little trackpad thing, dude, I was working that to like navigate the menu.
Super
way
intuitive.
freaking better. It's way more intuitive than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
I have really enjoyed that.
I thought it was going to be so cumbersome when I first got mine, and then you just like, your brain just meshes with it, and then you're just doing it, and you don't even really realize.
Yeah, and I can't speak to the first gen Steam Decks because I've never had one, but on this one, they've updated the haptics to where when you go to use the trackpad, you can like flick, and it'll sort of like coast. After you do that, and there's this really sweet like vibration right under the trackpad that coincides with the speed of the cursor. And I really underestimated how much that would affect my ability to like meld with the trackpad. It feels really good because you get this feedback of like how fast you're moving it, because you feel this little vibration under you. Anyway, it's very, very, very cool. The only thing that I've had to kind of readdress with the Steam Deck is that I had one bug with Mass Effect. I got to the final battle against Saren. Light spoilers for the end of a game.
Spoiler alert!
If you haven't played this game from 2006 or whatever, there's a bug that happened where as you're fighting Saren in his like second phase, I got to skip the first phase because I had enough Paragon points to just tell him to off himself. Nice. But then he does that and he comes back and you have to fight that second phase of him regardless of what dialogue options you choose. Mm-hmm. And the first like half of that, you just have to whittle his health bar down to like half, and then a cutscene plays where they show the battle that's going on outside the Citadel and the ship's coming in. And it was at the point where like they show the ship blowing something up, and then they show Joker's face like in the pilot seat while he's piloting the Normandy, and it froze. It just like hung, like it wouldn't move. And I hit the Steam button and the menu button, and like those pulled up fine, the overlays.
Right.
Just the game itself had hung. And so I just like waited a little while, and then it wasn't changing. So I rebooted, and then I did it again. So I had a save right there, and I got through the first half of the battle. The cutscene started, and it didn't hang in the same place it did before. It hung a little bit later. And I was like, that's odd, because I'm going into like IT freaking help desk mode. I'm like, why is this happening? Is it the OS or is it the game or is it EA? Is there a thing? And so I did it again, and I did it again, but in a different place. I just like, all right, I think I have been playing for 2 hours straight. Maybe I should just like go potty and get some water, and like, so I just came back to it later and it didn't do it. I don't know, how to explain it or anything.
What difficulty were you playing on?
I played on normal, just to kind of get through it. That was my goal of this sort of like playthrough, is do 1 and 2 and 3 just on normal.
Sure. Yeah. Because I did the hard difficulty once.
That game is easy on normal, dude. I know that I'm like super into that game, so I know like what weapons and attachments and armors and powers like to get, and so I'm not to brag, but I'm kind of a whiz kid when it comes to games from when I was in high school. And so I'm breezing through it on normal difficulty, but that final boss battle, just because of the bug, sort of like there was this hitch, that I had to get over. But,
it's kind of funny, like that brings me back to being a 9-year-old in 1999 and playing.
Go on.
Playing Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy VII. The importance of this is that they were games on discs, right? They were games on discs. And in both of those games, my disc, I was playing on PlayStation, right? And both of those games, my disc got scratched. And I would get to a certain point, and it would be the same exact spot in the game, and it would freeze, and I couldn't get past it.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so this is still early days of the internet, but I went on the internet and looked up, how to fix that. And there were these, and I, being the spoiled white boy in central North Carolina that I was, my mom bought me a disc repair kit. And basically what it does is it like scratches an extra layer off of the CD to where the scratches that you put on it aren't there anymore. But it does it evenly. I don't even exactly know the technology, but it worked. Like it totally worked.
That's so cool. That's exactly what this felt like. Is what it was reminiscent of. Is like there is a spot on the disc that is physically like missing or corrupted or bad, and it keeps doing the same thing at the same spot. Obviously, this is all on an SSD, so that wasn't the problem. But it reminded me of that. You're exactly right. And in Steam's defense, that game is not listed as like great on deck. Mostly I think because of the EA integration. Like when you first boot up the game, it pulls up the EA client. You have to like log into your EA account, and then it authenticates that you own the game, and then the like launcher for Mass Effect 1, 2, 3 comes up, and you pick which game you want to play and all that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, incredibly pleased. The Steam Deck freaking rules, and if you've got the scratch, man, it's just really great. Kind of like what you were saying, Jared, about squeezing video games into places they don't normally go. I can just kind of cook dinner and like have my Steam Deck off to the side, and like I'm waiting for the freaking pizza rolls to finish, and I'm like, playing for 10 minutes or whatever. It's just super rad.
It looks like they're also no longer sold out, which is cool.
Yeah, the availability for this latest gen has been very good. I've been pleased. I know we talked about that last time. That Valve they were hip to what was going to happen, and they seem to have come correct. They are prepared. So super into that. We'll see. I don't know how long that'll maintain into the holidays, but so far so good. So what else we got? Greg, you got something, I think, right? About speaking of games that have been remade. What you got for us?
Yeah. So, before we started recording, we were just kind of talking through some different ideas, and something that I've been thinking about a lot recently is there's a trend in gaming right now where companies are remaking or remastering classic games. And I use the term classic. That could be anything from, the original Super Mario Brothers to something that it came out on the PlayStation 2 in 2003 or whatever, right?
Right.
And I just thought, it might be interesting to talk about the idea that there's a difference between a remake and a remaster.
Yeah, dude.
A remake. Sorry, I'll start with a remaster because that's closer to the original, right? A remaster is they take, and Jake had some much better, much more flowery language for it, but a remaster is they essentially take the original game and recreate it as close to the original experience as possible, but with modern graphics. Right. So,
right, and sometimes just in the exact same engine, and then it's like emulated in some way, or it's it's truly like as close to the original as can be, but super updated.
Sometimes it's just whatever they can do to not do anything, which is kind of what they just did with the new Metal Gear Solid thing. But I don't need to go off on that.
Right. Well, you're right. That's a tangent. Right.
Yeah. So examples of remasters that off the top of my head would be, just for clarity's sake, would be like most recently Super Mario RPG, which was an SNES game that came out the same year the Nintendo 64 came out, which is crazy. It was like one of the very last games that came out for the Super Nintendo. Nintendo remade that for the Switch. It came out a few weeks ago. I've been really wanting to get my hands on it. That's probably the next game I'm going to play. That game, a few years ago, the Spyro the Dragon series was remastered.
Oh, that's right.
And I played that. It was very good. Very good. But it was because that, again, was essentially the exact same game. It just looked like it was made in 2023.
Right.
The engine was the same. The physics, even down to the physics, everything felt the exact same. So those two games, I'm sure there are more. It's very popular to do that right now. And then a remake would be recreating the game, but with modern sensibilities, right? So recreating the game as if they had the idea to make the game this year or last year, right?
Right.
So a great example is the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which has not only updated graphics, but a completely new battle system. The story is largely the same, but they took some liberties with the story that people weren't happy about. Like, it's not the same exact story. There's, a million more cutscenes and just all sorts of modern, modern
more
sensibilities.
Cutscenes in a Final Fantasy game?
Yeah,
Dang,
I mean,
dude.
it's like the whole, actually,
it's called a movie.
Yeah. Speaking of movies, if you ever want to claw your eyes out, watch the Final Fantasy movie, like the one that came out in like 2001. It is just awful.
The digital one?
Yes. Oh, it's so bad.
I'll try to remember that next time I want to claw my eyes out.
Yeah. But I don't know, Jake, Jared, do you guys have thoughts about remakes versus remasters? Do you like this trend of the companies? Because to me, it feels a little bit like, a little bit of it would be good, right? But I think it's getting to a point where some of these companies know their modern games kind of suck, and they're remaking what worked or remastering what worked. And do you guys have a preference? Do you think it's overdone? Do you like the direction that this is going? Because this is becoming a very big thing in the gaming world right now.
Right. You go ahead, Jared. I've got sort of a nuanced thing going on in my head, but what do you think?
I think it's not even really a trend in gaming, dude. It's a trending thing in at all forms of media, because there's people are just so lazy and so uninspired. Speaking about movies, try and go find something that's not a remake of some or a reboot of some tired franchise. I don't need to watch Jurassic Park 9. I don't care if Jeff Goldblum's in it. I don't need Jeff Goldblum.
Fast and Furious 69, dude. I think the other thing is, even if it's just a continuation down the same line. I know franchises are franchises for a reason, but I can't think of something that should have been longer than 3 movies in my head, right? Sure. And I'm saying that as somebody who loves Star Wars. Like, if the OG 3 Star Wars movies began and ended and there was never another Star Wars movie, they would still be great. And you don't have to have, all this drama that came after it. Am I grateful that they did more? I mean, I guess, certainly in 1999 when little 9-year-old Jake could go watch Padme Amidala get on the screen, yeah, sure, cool. Whoa. Yeah, you got me. You got me. First crush, 9 years old, you got me. Hands up, right?
Don't horned shoot. Up in the theater.
But no, you're right. What do you have any remakes, Jared, that you legitimately enjoy, or remasters or whatever?
Remakes or remasters? Yeah, they did Crash Team Racing. They redid that. That was kind of cool. I think it's fine if you are really bringing something that modernizes it and refreshes it. They did it with Crash Bandicoot as well. These are largely reskins. So in a way, it's it bugs me because they're just trying to package up what they've already made. It's a home run deal for them because the game is already there. They just need to kind of. I would imagine the team that has to go through and remaster a game is half to a quarter of what they need to make a full game from the bottom up. But
knowing what I know about the development cycle from a software perspective, there's a huge amount of work that goes on before anything gets even greenlit, right? The elevator pitch and the storyboarding and who's funding this and what the heck are we doing? All that front-loaded sort of stuff is wiped off the table. That's already done. All you need is some executive in the C-suite to go, what we need? It's money.
Right.
But let's find something from not the bottom of the barrel necessarily, right? But let's find something that we know will sell. And just like another Fast and Furious movie, just like a new Star Wars trilogy, just like a whatever, let's do it. Let's do it again. Let's do that. Yeah. Only it'll be better this time, I hope. And so sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. I think, what it reminds me of? When it's poorly done, certainly in other corners of the media, I can think of multiple video game examples that have been done really, really well. But generally, it seems like when it's done with a movie, everybody's so hip to it now. It's transparent, money grab territory. It reminds me of just earlier this evening, I sat down my son, Maxwell, who's a first grader, and he was doing his homework. It was his last page of homework for the week. I said, all right, buddy, let's knock it out. You'll be done, after this, no more homework
Gender
for the week.
Fluidity Studies 101.
That's right. So the thing about it is this, right? I'm sitting him down, and I go, all right, buddy, we got to the 4th or 5th little sort of segment of his homework page. It's one page with multiple stuff on it. And at the bottom, the last exercise is to write 2 sentences about the picture that is displayed. And it's a picture of a lion. And the lion has a notebook and a pen and a pencil. And he's got an eraser and he's got a calculator. And it's write me 2 sentences about this. And I said, Max, put your pencil down. Don't even think about writing anything yet. And he gets kind of anxious about writing stuff down. And I said, what is this? And he goes, it's a lion. What's he doing? Work. We're homework. He's doing homework. I was like, okay, cool. So say that again. The lion's doing homework? Yeah, Dad, the lion's doing homework. All right, so that's what we're going to write down. And we walked through how to write all that. And I said, let's pick another sentence. What else can you tell me about this? And he's like, he's got a calculator. I was like, he has a calculator. That's sentence number 2. Let's do it. And he goes, good job, has, good job, good job. Calculator? I was like, all right, you probably don't know how to spell calculator. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's spell it together. I'm going to write it down, and then you're going to copy it. And if by some miracle his teacher, Ms. McCoy, is listening to the podcast, I'm sorry I helped him.
Right. And then you pick
I
up the
was
paper and you kind of pull it away from your face. And you're like, what the heck? And you're like, and then you notice that he's...
You get closer, and then on the calculator, he did that thing where you spell boobs on the calculator upside down.
Yeah. Sorry. I couldn't help myself. Keep going.
No, it's cool. So I showed him how to spell it. We spelled it together, but all he had to do was copy it. And that's what it reminds me of, is like how juvenile and uninspired, right, do you have to be to go, let's just take that other thing and do it again. Right. I think the only things that deserve, in my subjective opinion, the only things that deserve a remake or remaster are things that are sufficiently old as to be hard to look at now, so that we can look at them and appreciate them with our modern sensibilities. Greg, I like what you said about the combat system in Final Fantasy. I don't know if it was a good change or not, but that's an example, right, of like, this is clunky and people aren't used to this today. At the time, it was awesome. But now we can make it quicker this way, or we can make it more intuitive this way, or we can make it more engaging this way. I think in Mass Effect, in the Mass Effect trilogy that was re-released, Legendary Edition or whatever they called it, they didn't really touch Mass Effect 2 and 3. They are basically exactly as they were at the time. But with Mass Effect 1 being the oldest, anybody that played it at that time would agree there's some menu sort of UI stuff that needed to be cleaned up, and they just kind of built in some shortcuts. They made things a little bit easier. They made the combat, to my mind, a little more forgiving. There's a penalty in Mass Effect if your character is not trained on a class of weapons. When you go to use that weapon, it's like pointless. There's sniper rifles in the game, and there's assault rifles and pistols and shotguns. If you aren't trained on sniper rifle and you get a sniper rifle out, they give you the scope, they give you everything. You can put whatever attachments on there you want. You go to line up a shot, and it goes like 90 degrees to the right. Like you have no shot of hitting this guy. And so in the new sort of remaster remake, they made it so that anybody can functionally use the gun. It'll have an accuracy penalty, but it's not an accuracy penalty of 900,000%. It's more like, here's a cone. You're going to have a pretty good shot, in this kind of area. And then as your character finds more attachments or improves that skill, it can get better. Anyway. So I think remasters and remakes are all well and good if the game is sufficiently awesome and sufficiently old as to deserve it. One game that I love, Dead Space, got a remaster here lately, and it was very well received. People said, hey, this is how it should be. They tweaked this, they tweaked that. It looks like $1 million, and it really was from the ground up a remake. They couldn't just boot up that same engine and repurpose it because of some technical nerd stuff that I wouldn't even know where to begin discussing, but people said it was very well received for those reasons. And to me, that's an example, in my opinion, of a game that you can still buy that game on the EA store and play it, and it runs. That didn't need to be done, because to my mind, that's only so old, and it still looks okay because it was done so well at the time. There's also kind of an artificial appreciation you may have for it if, when the game came out, your PC ran it like trash. Because you could emulate a game on the Steam Deck today, and it runs as well as it possibly could have at the time, and it's not been touched or remastered. But because you're playing it at a modern horsepower, it works really well, and it seems like a remaster because it ran like when you played it on your computer in 2002. So there's also that kind of angle where it's subjective, right? Your experience at the time was one thing in terms of PC games, and then what your experience would be now kind of changes. But I love talking about all that kind of stuff because, we talk a lot about games that we used to play on here, and we talk about kind of our heritage and what kind of winding path brought us to how we interact with media today and what video games mean to us today. And remakes are just going to naturally be a part of that conversation, because of the way the industry works right now. So speaking of games from the before times, Jared, I think we gave you a little tasker at the end of the last episode. Tell me what you've been getting your retro game on there, bud?
Yeah, well, I was Jake made mention of a couple games he'd played in the past that I'd never played, though. They were Blast Core and Buck Bumble for the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, dude.
And I agreed to try these games, and I did. I did try these games. I'm going to start with Buck Bumble real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Buck Bumble? More like Suck Bumble.
Oh!
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you got him!
1997 release from... Oh, by the way...
Is it 1997? I feel bad
think it's
now.
97, dude. I fire this game up, and the first thing I see is the ancient Ubisoft logo. Immediately, I'm triggered. Okay, I'm furious.
Yeah, that's clearly that's where they
yeah.
got the name Buck for Siege, right?
Exactly, dude. He's based on Buck Bumble. I am hearing Fortunate Son playing in the background. Helicopters, chopper sounds. I'm irate, okay? So after I got done vomiting all over myself, because that's actually the only way I know how to vomit is not, I can't do it in a toilet or in a trash can. I have to vomit all over myself. I do that. The game sets up this narrative, which is really hilarious, by the way. It's like, you know, things are bleak in England or something, and there's like toxic waste, and they've turned the bugs bad, you know, whatever. But to make a long story, well, actually a pretty short story, even shorter, it's an aerial combat game, largely aerial combat. You can like land, which I thought was kind of cool and intuitive for the time. Like you can like land and walk around, but then you can just like jump up and start flying around. I thought that was cool. It's not a poorly executed game, especially for the time. I bet it freaking rocked.
Yeah.
But it's a very Jake Phillips game to play. He's kind of an astro nerd, an aero nerd. He likes
It's
things
true.
that fly, and it doesn't handle terribly. It's just an old game. So when the Buck Bumble remaster comes out, I will look at it, I will reevaluate, and I will give you guys my review. Okay. Blast Core, on the other hand, actually kind of fun, even by today's standards. You just are destroying things. What kid doesn't like that?
Yeah,
Also,
dude.
what
All the
adult?
different little vehicles and stuff. Man.
Yeah. There's a bunch of different ways to blow things up. They put the dollar sign on the screen. They got you very much in a trance when you're playing that game. If you are a person who really, really likes old games and walking down to, we're going to call this one a period piece, folks. If you want to partake in a video game version of a period piece, go ahead and download Buck Bumble and Blast Core. You might just enjoy them. But if you're me, you'll probably go, I'm gonna go back to playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or you know, playing games that I think have a higher level of functionality. You know, that's something that never goes out of style. Functionality never goes out of style.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking in terms of remakes and remasters, games like Resident Evil 2, where they handled like dog crap, they remake those and it makes sense. But yeah.
Right.
These are interesting games, and I totally get Blast Core. That game was actually pretty fun, dude.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite, like, because it kind of cycles through all these different missions where you get to play different vehicles. Did you have sort of a favorite or like a thing that was more engaging?
I thought the jetpack guy was kind of fun. It wasn't really like the fastest thing, but it was fun to just like you just kind of fly up and level buildings to the ground from the top down. That was fun. I like that.
Yeah, I remember it feeling, by today's standards, you'd almost like consider each of the little guys to be their own mini game unto themselves, because they all sort of handle differently and have different stuff that they do. Yeah, that game, man, I played the crap out of that game back in the day. I have no concept. It's so funny that you went off and actually emulated and played these two games, because I didn't really expect you to like chase them down. But it's so cool to hear your
we'll let them
perspective on
rip,
this.
guys. I have access to the full library of PlayStation, N64, and below, and actually above with my Steam Deck. I have emulation capabilities. So anytime you guys want me to take that bullet, I'm happy to do it and check it out for you guys.
Yeah, what a blast from the past. The Jared Time Machine segment. That's pretty radical, dude.
Jared, we've got to go back to the future and play Buck Bumble. Doc, that game sucks.
Wait, is that my mom over there
Is that
playing
my
Buck
mom
Bumble?
playing Buck Bumble? She's pretty hot, Jared. What's his name? What's not is Jeff Foxworthy?
Jeff Foxworthy plays the
Michael
guy.
J. Fox.
Dude, Jeff Foxworthy instead of Michael J. Fox, just being like,
Foxworthy.
if you've ever tried to with your mom, you might be a time traveler. Yeah, dude. It's Jared's movie corner now. I just switched it over. I was thinking about this earlier. I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. Can you guys guess the movie?
You're gonna lose me on that one, buddy. I don't think I know.
The Departed, but with with a twist of Deg.
The Deg parted, dude.
The Deg
The
Party.
Deg Parted. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh man, it's not lost on me that our audience is probably like, how come Jake sometimes, almost like a Freudian slip, refers to Greg as Dag? Like, what is that? And that's a story for another day,
That's a
dear
secret,
listener.
guys.
Likely behind a paywall in the future if you
That's right.
keep the engagement coming. That's right.
Legacy of Deg. The Degacy of Deg. The Degacy.
Yeah, you're catching on now, buddy. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, it gets pretty addictive.
It is. It's like a little game I play with myself. Like, how can I find more ways to put Dag in every word out of my friggin' mouth? Hey, so in closing, I'd like for us to go over some holiday gift guide kind of items here. You know, I like most of us, I'm sure, I have extremely fond memories of the proverbial letter to Santa Claus, right? We have in our family 2 young boys that are like, Dad, will you give me that for Christmas? Dad, actually, you know what I want for Christmas? Is I want and it's like, I feel you, buddy. I remember. Don't worry. You're going to get 2 of the things that you've asked for all year. Right. You know, like, I got you. Don't worry. Daddy's got you covered. You'll have a good Christmas. Don't worry. Because Christmas morning comes and they remember none of the things they asked for. Then you get them a couple of those things and they're over the moon, so it's fine. And as adults, my Steam Deck, of course, being a great example, I can just be like, my Christmas budget already been spent. Sure. Don't buy anything for me. And I can just tell my wife, like, give me, I don't know, freaking socks and underwear, I guess, because I'm good. But all the same, I wanted to offer our listeners a peek into some of the other things that we might be into and kind of what we might have on the proverbial Christmas list here. So I'm going to start and just mention that I've got a thing. There's a couple things about Jake you need to know. I like video games. Yeah, sure, fine. But, like, I have an unhealthy obsession with plenty of other things as well. I'm super into coffee. I'm super into disc golf. And I'm a bag guy. I have a bag. I have a sling bag.
Nice.
I had one from Osprey for a while, and then I have one from Puma that I use now. And I got my eyes on another bag, boys. I got a bag last year, and I want another one this year. Nice. HK of MP5 fame, among other wonderful firearms. HK has a sling bag that they have put out. It was on sale at one time. I went ahead and shot the link to my darling mother because I was like, hey, you were asking for gift ideas, and I gotta say, this looks pretty sweet. And so it's I guess it's a concealed carry type thing. There's not much of a description on their website actually, but it looks really rad. It's got HK branding on it, and
you didn't send it to your wife because she says you're not allowed to have guns, right?
I didn't send it to my wife because I already bought myself a Steam Deck. Is why I didn't send anything to my wife. But yes,
True.
Point taken. The cool thing about this bag is that it is simple. It's somewhat like tactical looking, but it's not stupid. I have a whole thing where, like, whenever I'm driving down the road and I see some dude with like a Punisher skull and a Gadsden flag and like a Trump sticker and like all this stuff, I'm like, dog, you look like a fool. You played yourself. All right, it's a target on your back. I guarantee you, some bozo when you go into the big city is gonna be like, I wonder what truck I should break into today.
Sure.
This one's got a bunch of gun stickers on it. I bet there's a gun in there.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm not really hip to, like, I'm not trying to tactical bling myself out. I think that's silly. But anyway, it's a nice bag, and I want it.
That is cool.
It's like $40. So
Yeah.
whatever, dude. Let's see what happens. I actually don't have any HK firearms myself, but I know it's a good brand, and we'll see if Santa smiles upon you, boy, and gets me a new bag for Christmas. We'll see. How about y'all?
Yeah, I think I've made mention of handhelds a few times already. I think to the aspiring mobile gamist, I would say get a Steam Deck if you're balling, play everything.
Yeah, dude.
And then if you want something that's horizontal and comfortable and has a bigger screen, get yourself a Powkitty RGB 30. And then if you want something really small, really portable, get a Miu Mini Plus or Ambernick Nano if you want to go super small, keychain style.
Man, you're throwing out all these brands. I had no idea. I just had to look up RGB 30. That looks pretty rad.
Yeah, it's a great little device. It's got a nice big screen. It's a 720 by 720 screen, which is, square and makes it, specifically good for games that are in like 4:3 or arcade games that are in like a more square ratio. You probably don't want to try and play PSP games on here with the 16 by 9, but
was the PSP 16 by 9? Wow, man.
Yeah,
PSP. You forget the PSP was really going for it.
They were going for it. Sony was swinging for the fences back then. I almost said the USP. I've got HK on the brain.
Yeah, the Powkitty RGB 30 looks kind of rad. Powkitty, for the listener, is spelled POWKIDDY.
Yeah.
It has a quad-core ARM architecture CPU that looks a little capable. Looks pretty great.
Comes in a few different colors, 4100 milliamp hour battery, and is impossible to find a screen protector for because the screen's really weird, folks.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. Word of the wise. Yeah.
But, I had something, but it totally... you can get this stuff on AliExpress. You can get it really cheap there. It just takes a little longer to get here because it's coming straight from the old motherland, old China.
Right. Hey, speaking of handhelds, real fast.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the Steam Deck dock, sort of first party, their solution? I know there's a bunch of them out there that people will sell you, but do you know anything about that? Have you dealt with that at all?
I've heard and some of this is just my own intuition. The dock goes on sale occasionally. It's usually I've seen it as cheap as $70 or $80. Mm-hmm. And with this kind of tech, you always want to go first party.
I know, you really do. If it's meant to pair with the Steam Deck, it's not like Valve has done a bad job with the hardware. Get their hardware.
And Valve is they're so open with everything they do. It's not like Apple where it's you're constantly you get in the Apple box and all you want to do is get out of the Apple box when you're in the Apple box, right?
I know.
And then you get into the Valve box. They're like, hey, take it apart. Go ahead, bro. Take it apart. Put new parts in. Put some NOS in there, bro. They really encourage you. It's weird. It's with the weirdest company. They're like, yeah, sure. You can just buy the cheaper one and just put a massive hard drive in there yourself. It's fine. Just do it.
Yeah.
It's like,
and
are you serious?
Do it. Super cool.
Yeah. We don't care. So.
Yeah, I love that. Greg, what do you want Santa to bring you for Christmas? Sit on the lap. Tell us.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm kind of between getting a Steam Deck or getting a PlayStation 5. And I think the Steam Deck has way more positives to it, way more reasons, way more checks in the plus column.
Right.
For
Can I say something to that real quick?
Sure.
The Steam Deck also, Steam has, they have first-party PlayStation games, exclusives on Steam. So,
really?
You can pretty much do a lot of what the PlayStation does, but you can do a lot of other stuff too, if that helps you. But
I will have to look into that, yeah. Because there's only there's like 2 games for PlayStation 5 that I really want to play. One is the new Spider-Man 2 game, which looks so much fun, and got really good reviews. And the other is the second part of the Final Fantasy VII remake is actually going to be 3 games. There was FF7 remake that came out 3 years ago during 2020. And then part 2 is coming out in February, so in like 2 months. And part 3 is going to come out, when I'm like 90. But those games are PlayStation exclusives, at least when they start. Like, I think the first one was ported to PC like a year and a half after the game came out. And I really don't want to wait a year and a half or 2 years to play a game I've been looking forward to for a very long time, And
wait, what the heck? Is nobody pissed about that? That they're like releasing the same game but in 3 different parts? What?
Yeah, but they announced it like way like when they announced they were remaking the game, like 2 years later or something. And this is still 5 years before the game came out, right? They said it's going to be in 3 parts, so just so you know.
That's bonkers, dude.
Isn't that wild?
Well, we're going to sell them the same game, but 3 times.
It's a triple money grab.
Yeah,
dang.
Samurai style.
So the reason they made that decision is that the original Final Fantasy VII game, like that game, all of the backgrounds in the game are hand drawn. So they're not rendering any of the graphics in real time, and so there's a lot of stuff that actually in that. Like, if you go back and play the PS1 game, some of it looks pretty realistic because it's hand-drawn backgrounds, right?
Right. It's just a pixelated sort of like rendered picture.
Yeah, and it's got kind of a timeless look to it, And they came out and they said, if we're going to actually like render all of this in 3D, we don't have the technology to do it right now. So we have to like make the game in parts, and split it up. So that's what they ended up doing. And so I'm leaning, especially after talking to you fools, I'm leaning towards the Steam Deck because they're basically the same price. Right? Like a PS5 is like $500, right? And
right, you literally are looking at the same price, especially if you. Not that I would recommend holding off necessarily, because just like, oh my gosh, it's Christmas, treat yourself or whatever. But I'm sure the Steam Deck will only go down in price over time. But if you're looking at actual like Christmas gift to yourself, I'm thinking of like your house, right? And I'm thinking of like, let's say you randomly have a day off, teacher work day, holiday, whatever. Let's say Casey doesn't have that day off and you're chilling at the house with her, but she's working. She's in the office. It's not like you can go sit at your computer. You're going to need to be in the other room. And she could very well be in a position where you shouldn't have, the sound system turned up, like jamming on a PS5 game. And so the Steam Deck is like so mega portable. Pop those headphones in. Like, I don't know. I know there's a way to play PS5 with a headset on probably, but I'm thinking of your kind of general use case and how you want to maybe just kind of sit wherever. I don't know. It could be super good. And I didn't know anything about what Jared said, that there's PlayStation games available in the Steam store, that if something's going to migrate to other platforms, but it began on PlayStation, it does seem likely that the next sort of place that it's going to arrive is on PC in some way.
The first Spider-Man one is on there, and so is it Criterion? I forget who develops those. And God of War is also on Steam as well.
Insomniac develops. I think
you're back in movie mode. You said Criterion. I was like, the Criterion, like Criterion Collection, like movies.
Yeah.
Another thing I forgot all about, you guys, and maybe I'll have to do sort of a part 2 review of my Steam Deck. Earlier when I had my Steam Deck turned on for a second, I had Steam up on my PC. It says, "Hey, Steam Remote Play, Steam Deck is available for streaming."
Yeah, it tells me you're online playing Mass Effect right now.
I know, because I still have the game turned on. I can just stream from my computer at the graphics of my computer's rendering capability to my Steam Deck. Yeah. So even if my computer is in use by someone else, like in Greg's case, I could sit in the other room and play, because it's going on my own home Wi-Fi network, right, straight from the computer to my device. I could play as if I had my 3070, in my PC. I could just play that on my Steam Deck. So if there was a graphical limitation, and I would argue for most intents and purposes, you don't really have a graphical limitation on the Steam Deck because of what you're trying to play and what resolution it's being rendered at.
Right.
You could benefit from that hugely if there's a game, like if you have Elden Ring on PC you could sit here and play Elden Ring on your Steam Deck because you could stream it right from your computer. You don't have to run it at Steam Deck settings.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know. I know me and Jared, now that we both have one, we're like being freaking salesmen about it, but that's a heck of a thing to have on the old Santa list, I gotta say.
It's a good one.
Well, boys, good talk. Appreciate it. Good pod. Looking forward to putting this out there for folks to enjoy. And thank you. The folks that have listened to us, I can't tell you how happy it makes us, just because it's like, who wants to listen to us three knuckleheads? And it's like not 0 people. So thank you. Please smash the proverbial like button. Follow us on Spotify. Download us on all of the things, whether you use Apple Podcasts or anything else. We also have an Instagram account and Twitter account, or X. Those are both at 3 Grasstouchers. The number 3 comes before Grasstouchers. We're going to add a Q&A to this one. If you're listening to us on Spotify, there's going to be a little poll, a little question that you can tell us what's on your Christmas list. I'd love to see what other folks are thinking, and you just kind of interact with the pod a little bit there. Thank you so much for your support so far. We hope to see you again soon. And until next time, don't forget to get out there and touch some grass.